Good morning, friends, audience of this ad hoc rantings internet video program. Uh, Today is about a caricature I saw posted on the internet by the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine and by others as well. And it depicts a Russian soldier coming back home with a loot, and he and his children are enjoying the loots like a beer, a scooter, and the wife is happy, with their like teeth protruding, like as they're being portrayed as animals. Hey, they are assaulting Ukraine, insulting Ukraine, destroying Ukraine, killing, and so on and so forth. But not all of it, really. Uh, at the end of the day, these soldiers are human beings and their children are children. I have no doubt that you Ukrainians, if you got hold of the children of those Russian soldiers, you will not treat them any different from any other human beings. You will take care of them. You will try to cleanse their minds from all that happened to them, and so on and so forth. And you've shown that already. And I would show that too. And every normal human being, any ordinary citizen with a healthy mind and soul that has not been subjected to the psychological horrors of communism and Pustalenin for over a century, would do the same thing, would deal with them as they're human beings and so on and so forth. We cannot bring ourselves to take revenge on them for something that they're largely not responsible for. What I mean by that is they're human beings. So am I, you Ukrainians are human beings. I am a human being too. I am an American from an Arab origin, right? And what happened to those soldiers in Syria and in Russia and in China and in Cuba and so on? There's not all of them. There's a select group of them, and those Northern Alliance of Afghanistan and so on and so forth. Why have they become such low quality as to become looting, to go looting and kill and maim and so on and so forth? Well, there are reasons for that, and there are two divisions. One of them is dogmatic, and that's those we don't talk about. I'm talking about the normal Russian conscript and soldier that is in Ukraine and probably looting. Uh, 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 they have been subjected to psychological horrors, to the horrors of communism for over a century now. And that psychological horror, and there's financial deprivation. They're all poor, really. I mean, in their communism, it was what? Consume what you need and give everything to the state. That is Israel. I mean communism, like Zion. And build it and do all that you can do, and so and live like basically on your own need. That's like Animal Farm, of course, even though Animal Farm was meant to talk about something else back in time. You can really consider it and fit it on the modern picture that in 1984 or 1984 came back to restore Animal Farm to what it is. And the horrors of 1984. And that has been going on in Russia, by the way, and elsewhere. So they were subjected to those torments, poverty, deprivation, and but most of all, they lived under psychological fear of the state, of the security apparatus of communism, of so and so for over a century. And that actually has a detrimental effect on the psyche of the human beings. In modern day, if they're in computing, they call them servers, right? Server, the server that you put in your data center and so on, but they interchangeably use it for human beings serving them, those communists. They call you server, right? Just in case you don't understand, hence, you know what they mean by that. If what they're saying sounds a little bit peculiar, that you didn't ingest it, and they say the word server, maybe they're talking about you. But hey, first time you catch it, the second time will be all clear. you won't even have to think about it. But that's what communism is. They live in fear under psychotics like Stalin and Putin and so on and so forth, who were demented and blood suckers and bloodthirsty creatures that killed and maimed and tortured in gulags with impunity. And I mean, it gets very bad, folks. And these people, those soldiers, are who are in Ukraine now and who were in World War II, are the byproduct of, or the product of such psychological state, living in such psychological state of fear, of poverty, of horror, of security apparatus where you couldn't even trust your own family, right? How do you think you can live like that without being affected psychologically? So those who are in Ukraine, you have to kind of, I know it's not your business, they come there to kill you, but you really have to look at them and feel that they're human beings at the end of the day. Who is being done wrong, similar to them being in a gulag or a dungeon for most of their lives and that of their fathers and their grandfathers, and suddenly they emerge. Of course, they're not going to be the same, right? So they need time to rehabilitate, but that's, of course, that's not your responsibility. You're not shrinks, you're not going to give them counseling sessions and so on. But don't feel about them as such and try to convey the message to them that this is who you are, this is what's sending you here. Why are you killing and getting killed? Why are you living in poverty? Why are you living in fear? Notice in Russia, they cannot even go object or stand up against the state or voice their opposition to the war without being, detained and so on, and then disappear in some gulags. It gets worse if you're a Muslim, right? In Syria, they basically ditch you just because you're a Sunni Muslim, right? Now, some of them committed heinous acts. Some of those soldiers, those who committed heinous acts, you can't help it, and you cannot possibly overlook what they've done and try to give them reprieve or try to kind of give them a second chance or something like that. Some of these who commit horror acts, horrific acts and heinous and horrendous acts against fellow human being, whether it's Ukrainian or whoever else, right? These people have passed the point of recovery, folks, and it's not your responsibility anymore. The only chance for those is if they come around and fix themselves. But then how can you ascertain or be sure of their recovery, of their whether they're truly remorseful, whether they're truly repentant of their heinous acts and so on? You can't. That's the problem with those. And these are special group, and you'd find them in Iran and Syria and Russia and China and here and there, Cuba and somewhere in South America and so on. So I'm going to talk to Russians now. Russians, you can't just, you can't just continue living under the horror and under the fear of this communism, Pustalenin, from the last century until now. They're continuing, folks, and they're being helped by Israel, shored up economically, financially, digitally. You call it, now there is full support for Pustalenin, and they keep telling you about all these things that now they're pouring in heavy weapons and blah 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 blah. What after Ukraine defeated Russia? Now you show up, you stupids. I mean, who are you kidding, right? Who are you trying to sell your deception to? Ukrainians do understand that. Everybody else does, right? And that's that, folks. And even Israel now wants to sell, give Superdome, the Superdome that really never functioned, right? 2, now they come. 3, they're the ones who really instigated this war in the first place, who ordered the invasion of Europe. So Russians, wake up. This opportunity now that you have to rid yourselves and your country of this nightmare, of this creature that's crouching over your your chest. If you ever seen the description of a nightmare, what a nightmare means is like when you're asleep, a devil like that of Pustalenin and whatnot and Netanyahu come at night and sit on your chest and start tormenting you. That's what you have, folks. That's what you have. You have basically that's what you have in Russia for over a century, and that's not going away, folks, unless you remove them. And this is your chance. That regime is in a weakened state, and now it is time for them to depart. You need to rise up in Moscow and in Minsk and here and there and go out in mass demonstration. Yeah, sure, you may lose some, but guess what? If you recall Abraham Lincoln, the tree of liberty needs to be watered with blood between now and then, right? That's what he said. Meaningly, you're just not going to ask them to leave the Moscow, those lizard eye cabal of Pustalenin. You ask them to leave Moscow, they will arrest you and they send you to the gulags. No, folks, these folks must be removed by mass demonstrations, by force, and so on and so forth. Yes, I am instigating a revolution in Russia, and I'm calling for it to rise up and rid yourselves of communism and join, the free nations. There's much for you to look for, folks. And what you have now is basically a continuation of Lenin and Stalin and whoever is, and now Putin and whoever is in between. So there you have it, folks. It's that simple, and this opportunity will not last forever. It comes once in 1,000 years, and now is the time to do so. And Ukrainians gave you that opportunity and are making it possible for you. And remember, post-Stalinian have this evil, sophisticated schemes of thinking and so on. They're not smart. Evil and cunning is not smart. Is not intelligence and smartness. You are only intelligent and you are only smart if you're able to control your blood purges and urges and compulsive behavior toward other people, like tormenting them and so on and so forth. That's the specialty of Count Dracula. Before he impaled people on the stakes, right? He was in jail by the oligarchs, right? And then he used to impale rats in jail. It's in his psyche, tormenting animals and tormenting humans and so on and so forth. When he went out of jail, he started impaling Turks because he wanted to satisfy and lick boots for oligarchs who put him in jail in the first place, right? So his demented psychological state allowed him to become something of Frankenstein or something like that, Frankenstein monster or Dracula or whatever it is. That's what these guys are, folks. You need to rid yourselves of them. You need to rise and then you need to flush them out. And believe me, when push comes to shove and you show resilience and willingness to fight, you Russians, these fucks will leave. They may try to destroy, and they will kill and so on. But look at Ukraine. Ukraine is defending itself, and they incurred losses. But that's what freedom is all about, folks. Freedom is not free. And if you don't rid yourselves of them now, they will be there for the next 1,000 years. Well, if there's 1,000 years, of course, or 100 years, for that matter, in the world, But they will be there. They will be there, and they will torment you further. And now here is the one important point. Pustalenin, after this war, he lost, right? And those people, generals or despots, or especially the Pustalenins and the Hitlers and whatnot, Pustalenin, Stalin, Lenin, Hitler, now Putin, Castro, whoever, quite few of them, Bashar Assad and his wife and his son, right? His sons, and of Iran. These are all brothers, folks. They're great brothers, So when they lose a war, and now Pustalenin is losing a war, the foundation of his dictatorship is shaken and cracks. There are cracks in it. So what do you think they will do? They're going to purge your society. They are going to blood purge your society. You fought in Ukraine, yes, but that doesn't matter because to them you were born to die and serve him, right? That's it. That's the mentality and dark dogma of Pustalenin. He doesn't build, he destroys, right? And guess what? That has been proven. So Russians, this opportunity comes once in a millennium, right? Don't lose it. It is now time, really. Even if your country is going to suffer, you have to take the pain. You have to endure the pain and suffering until you really rid yourselves of this nightmare, of this creature that's sitting on your shoulders, clutching and tying in a knot its legs, and then you can't get rid of him, and he's moving you around like, I read this in an old Arab novel called Sinbad or something, when he goes into an island and there's this creature who cannot walk, but he's got very strong legs, and then he asks him to move him, and once he's on his shoulders, right, he clutches and ties, locks his legs around his shoulders, and basically uses Sinbad, I think, to go around and serve him and walk and so on and so forth, until he devised a scheme, right? He made him drink alcohol, and when he was drunk, he was loosened, and then he dropped him and, ran for his life. It is an anecdote, folks. It is a fiction. It is a romance, but that's what's happening in Russia. There is this cabal in Russia that is using Russia just like this analogy I just mentioned. And it's like a nightmare sitting on your chest, go search engine, like you'd see the picture how they used to think a nightmare is sitting on your chest and like tormenting you at night and so on and so forth. That's what it is, folks. That's what it is. And if you don't get rid of it now, Pustalenin, after his foundation has been cracked and that regime and cabal, lizard eye cabal of Moscow has been shaken, they're going to come and purge the country. You would see. These guys don't allow a stumbling like this, even though it's probably not the problem of the Russian intelligence community or the soldiers or anything else, but that doesn't matter. For them, they have to renew that fear, that grip on your society. Those lizard claws. They have claws. They have to renew that, and for that they will shed a lot of blood, folks. In Russia too. That's what I'm talking about, Russia. So wake up, folks. Wake up, Russians. It's now time, not tomorrow. And if you falter this time around, those of you who are brave Russians, those who love your country, who consider everybody else a human being, this is the time, folks. Not tomorrow, not after tomorrow. This is the time to rise and cleanse your country from those lizard eye cabals, with like claws and bloodthirsty suckers, like bloodthirsty weasels and so on and so forth. Now is the time, folks. Repeat after me. I'm going to conclude this video by a slogan I devised lately. Now, let me fix that. That's right. So, if you're a Ukrainian, you're a Nazi. If you're a Syrian, you're ISIS. Ukrainian Nazi, Syrian ISIS. Ukrainian Nazi, Syrian ISIS. All right, beautiful people, let's expand on that. If you're an Arab, you're a Nazi. No, oops, sorry. If you're an Arab, you're ISIS. If you're European, no. If you're white, you're a Nazi. You're Arab, you're ISIS, white Nazi. Arab, ISIS, white Nazis. All right, beautiful people, third degree complexity. If you're a Muslim, which are the majority in the world, like I think they're over nearly 4 billion or something like that. You're ISIS. Now I'm talking about Sunni Muslims, right? If you're European, you're a Nazi. And now, Pustalenin has come to settle the score. What score is that? That dubious score? Well, that's not the subject of this video, but I noticed from my travels, from my chats, from my introspections of other people and their reactions and so on and so forth, everybody feels about what happened last century in Europe as I do. No exception, right? There are only small class of people that accept events as they are at face value, and these are the misled ones, basic and simple. So, when do you fight the fight? If you want to defend your Europe, if you want to defend your Middle East or whoever it is, you fight now in Ukraine. Ukraine largely won. Actually, they won the war. And Russia turned out to be nothing, really. We knew that. They just needed to be brought into the ring to a close proximity fight, where the other fighter is not tied down, shackled, or drugged, like Mike Tyson was drugged when he bit the ear of Evander Holyfield. He was drugged actually, uh, and so on and so forth. Now let's go back. It is too late now, right? The heavy weapons should have been brought into Ukraine early on. But now Ukraine won the war. Everybody wanna be on the record, falsely speaking, that they were supporting Ukraine. Not that like they're pouring in enough weapons to influence the outcome of the war, which is largely over, right? At least in Ukraine. But they're trying to deceive you, by sending small amount, if any, in fact. Probably not accurate, probably defective weapons. So that's what it is, folks. There's still now, as we speak, that umbrella of Israel, which includes the United States government, European establishments, EU Central Bank, NATO, Gulf Arab countries, those Arabs like myself, the camel jackies, the Zayed and the MBS and the Salem, Sabah, and the Hamad and the Caboose, all those, they're shelling everything they can, sending fighters to fight alongside of Pustalenin. Now, including Hezbollah, Houthis, Syrian regime, Iran's regime, they're all supporting Pustalenin and sending conscripts. Oh yes, that Kadyrov, I don't know, weird thing that with his minority in Chechnya, that eventually when Pustalenin just killed and maimed hundreds of thousands in there and so on, they removed the majority and then they put the minority, and the minority, that dark, despotic minority. And they're nothing different from those who think they are bears in that movie 13th Warrior by Antonio Banderas. That's how psychotic and demented they are. Watch that movie, folks. It speaks, even though it's a movie, it really depicts and illustrates reality in this world now. There is such a greed, folks, going about, and that greed is mutilating, and killing, and torturing, and tormenting, and it's just mind-boggling how they're trained and emptied from their humanity, and now they function like zombies, which, by the way, is controlled by that little state now in the Middle East called Israel. Point. This is a very important point, folks. Biden just declared that he wants to pull 30 billion out of the US economy that really is no longer viable because of the theft of trillions over the past few decades, right? For Ukraine. Really? For Ukraine? And then suddenly it hit a snag and opposition. Why? Because now everybody want to capitalize on this COVID funding. COVID funding? According to certain news outlet, very respectable news outlet, Biden and before him Trump, for COVID alone, charged something like 2.5 trillion on Americans. 2.5 trillion for what? Just mind-boggling, folks. Do you know what 2.5 trillion is? I have watched a news clip on CNN, right? This African-American anchor in the morning, he started counting dollars one at a time. $1, $2, $3, $4. And he said, and I quote, if you want to count 1 trillion, like I did, $1, $2, $3, how long will it take you to finish counting the 1 trillion by $1 at a time? Just 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll take you 3,000 years, folks. Where did this 2.5 trillion go? I don't know, folks. But I assure you, much of that went to oligarchs and Pustalenins and Ayatollahs and Hezbollahs and ISIS and Assads and and gangs of New York and here and there. I'm not making this up. If you're afraid to make the point, then allow me the courtesy to make that point for you, whoever you are. And now he wants 30 billion. Now they want more than that. By the time this is finished, oh, it'll probably be much more than that. But here's the important, the gist of it really. This 30 billion will not go to Ukraine. It's in the name of Ukraine only. So what are the possibilities of it going where, right? One, it's going to stock market. I would say that's about 25%. Two, it's going to give the money to Elon Musk for the purchase of Twitter, right? Elon, he gave him the 30 billion, because that's for Twitter, on account of Americans. So if you if you don't pay for subscription on Twitter, you just did, right? Why? Because the American economy, you as an individual in the American economy, was charged that money. So that's 25%. Another 25%. Let me see. Those ISIS and the Syrian Democratic Forces of that Kurdish thing in Syria, those terrorist organizations, Hezbollah and Iran's regime and Russia's ruble needs support, right? They're doing that on a daily basis. So that's 25%. I would say about another 25%, just this money goes straight to Israel. But now let me ask you this. Even though it's in the name of Ukraine, what will Ukraine get out of this 30 billion? If it stays 30 billion, maybe $100,000 or half javelin, they kind of sew it off in half and then give it to Ukraine. And charge 30 billion for it, or maybe 60, I don't know, right? But nonetheless, that's the point, folks. Ukraine, it's being put on your account, but that's in metaphor. I would say most likely this 30 billion is going to Russia, to make sure Russia doesn't collapse, because Russia was not just defeated in Ukraine. If Russia was on its own, it would have basically collapsed. That regime in Russia would have basically collapsed by now. But that day, you, Biden, and your brothers, whoever they are, the Netanyahus, that day is coming. So the hardware that is showing up in Ukraine now, if any is showing up, of course. First, it's too late. Second, it's like now you're joining the fight on side of the one who's already won the war. Think about it, folks. I mean, it shouldn't escape you, really. It shouldn't escape you that this game is weird, man. I mean, what else can you make an assumption of that turns out to be true about what's going on? Especially the point I am making that Israel and the United States, NATO and EU Central Bank and Germany and here and there are supporting Pustalenin. Just make that assumption and know it is true, So too late for the hardware, folks. And even the hardware they're talking about, it's not coming. I feel bad for Germany. Germany is in a bind because they didn't join the war or the defense of Europe alongside of, what's their name, the Ukrainians. But I feel bad for them afterwards, because now they're being looked at and everybody is gazing and staring at them. Why did you do that? So they're in more trouble after Ukraine won than they're in trouble than before the fight, when they practiced restraint and no escalation policy, and those folks are not being tormented on a daily basis and they're being destroyed just like Russians, right? Now they suffer the consequences of them being so lethargic and very obviously on the side of Pustalenin. Think about it now. The establishment in Germany, not going to take the blame, right? Guess who's going to take the blame? Germans. Oh, those Nazis, man. So not just that, other countries in Europe will in fact suffer the consequences, because now their stand against the invasion of Europe by Pustalenin and that ensuing that will, you know, it will not happen now, at least for now, for the foreseeable future. That they took the wrong position, the wrong stand on what's happening, and they failed to defend their continent and their nations and their people and so on and so forth. So they don't have that favorable neutrality anymore, even among their people. Now their people are doubting them. I don't want to elaborate on this, but a whole book can be written on that, and I may actually do just that. Here's a alarming point, a very dangerous thing. You know, Putin keeps bragging, and he's like Chihuahua Putin and Pug Lavrov keep hinting at nuclear option. I assure you, folks, they will not use it. But here's the important point. How would they ever use it if they ever want to use it? Well, they have a dog they raised in Asia. What's his name? You know, I hate to use the word dog, but he is, in fact, being helped by Pustalenin, whether in rockets, manufacturing and design of rockets, and other things, including thermonuclear weapons and so on, technology, which made it possible for him to be able to hit the continent US, and that would be Kim Jong-un. Now you Americans, strategists and tacticians and military folks and think tanks, you know, like not like the tank of military tank. I don't know what think tank means. You know, you could think of it like an oil tanker or whatever. Whatever tank that is, right? You know, like we have a water tank here, and then there's a gas tank, you know, in my car. But somebody somewhere with some evil intentions quickly developed North Korea for a sinister purpose, and that's not themselves, folks. That is not themselves. They didn't just jump out, you know, like jump up and, you know, hit the jackpot on rockets, on thermonuclear weapons, and so on, just in very few years. Who do I consider? Pustalenin, oh yes. Trump, Shrimp Trump, oh yes. Israel, oh, highly likely, folks. They gave the nuclear weapon to communist Russia. I'm not making this up, you know the history of it. And I remember a very senior member of the Politburo of old Soviet Union, I think he's dead by now. He said on TV somewhere, and I quote, I was listening to documentary, watching him, he said, this communist, that Pustalenin, and afterwards, I don't know what, they gave China a nuclear weapon as is. China didn't even have to research it. And on and on. Right? So now you see what North Korea is, right? If there is an exchange, notice, go back to your elementary geography. Israel in the Middle East, Europe. If there's an exchange, it will be on the other side of Earth, right? Between North Korea and the United States. And certain fucks think they're gonna survive. Get it, folks? You see what I'm talking about? That's the dangerous moment, folks. That's when you stop and something hits you, right? You know, North Korea wasn't just a haphazard, like this horse is gone. No, folks. Somebody intended to put a threat on the side of the United States and on the other side of Earth. I want to remind you of something. Do you remember when this guy, Obama, who is a brother of Pustalenin, you may think he was like he and Putin were antagonists. Oh, no. He, just like Trump, just like Biden, just like others before him, just like George Bush, right? The Bushes are close friends and brothers and great brothers of Putin. Yeah, he used to talk and so on and so forth, and you know, like he talks about Pustalenin slouching on his chair and so on. That's for your local consumption, folks. On the media calls him and say, make such a statement, from Israel. And he makes such a statement. And that confuses the masses, called confusing masses psychology. They study that, actually. Managing the masses psychology. And it has like the devil's Bible in it, right? And he lately has been trying to become presidential, right? Like instead of saying shit in the square, he's talking, instead of talking shit about the square, he was talking raw sewage about the square. I bet money he went and thought about it for a long while, and then he found a word so that he would look presidential, right? I'm thinking about the guy, this Obama, when he came into the White House, it was more like a gas station robbery, maybe. As soon as he comes in and Biden's sitting down, and I don't know, Manuchin, or I don't know they're all same brothers and sisters. And the Federal Reserve and the Congress, and he comes in and he thinks it's a gas station robbery. Stick him up, motherfucker. Shit, man, oh shit. And then Biden says, oh, wait. Take me to the treasury, the house, motherfucker. And he goes back, no, there's no cash here. Right. Fun, yes. Funny, yes. Vulgar, yes. But that fuck destroyed the United States. Stole trillions for his gangs and in the investment firms and here and there. And he got some cut too, right? And now he's trying to look presidential. Instead of saying the shit in the square, he's saying, oh, wrong sewage. Oh, man. Oh, you little... I don't want to talk about him anymore because I have noticed that even his folks that he thinks he's part of, I have noticed personally that those people whom he is made to believe that he's part of, that big family, right? That remember what's his name? Jaws, the movie Jaws, and these folks are King Fox and sitting down, on the beach and so on. He thinks he's one of them. Yeah, they make him think like that. I have noticed they despise him so much and they dislike him so much. But they gave him his cut after he left. He came and visited here with Pritzker, right? Just a few months before he left office. And that's when he negotiated his cuts because Pritzker got few billions out of those debt limits and so on and so forth. And like signed some weird book deal that nobody bought or read and so on. They gave him his cut. I think, I don't know, a few hundred millions. Not that it's a small amount. Oh, no. But this guy was willing to do anything for what he did, right? And he didn't care. Fun over. But all these are, of course, brothers of Pustalenin. But back to the point. Do you remember during the time of Obama? He was doing negotiations with North Korea, right? Like distant negotiations, right? Not like the meeting that happened between Trump and Kim Jong-un. And I recall there was a reporter, an American reporter, an Israeli, I think. No, I know, right? And he was in the airport when a certain representative from the US landed in the airport, and there was a military man there from North Korea waiting for him. And as soon as they meet, the Americans hands him a briefcase, like very good briefcase. He carried it, and the reporter made a note saying, "Oh, there goes the exchange," or something like that. What was in that briefcase, folks? I don't know. A lot of things, folks. Some could be just as simple as a secret of how to build a ballistic missile that reaches from North Korea to the United States. Or it could be cash. Possibility of cash? Yes. Why? Because back then, North Korea caught and nabbed a US CIA officer whose last name was Hanzikar. And then the United States had to exchange them. Now, I don't think these two are relevant, but possible. I kind of moved back and forth on the time slot here. So I can't relate between the two. And then eventually they released him. Apparently he did a lot of damage or turned out to be, like double agent or something of the sort. And supposedly he came here, that Hanziger, and then committed suicide in a hotel room. And you know how it is, right? They killed him for some reason. I don't know. Maybe they don't want him to say that he discovered something of the sort. So, so the Pustalenins and the Obamas and so on, killed him. That's a possibility. But to get him out of there, possibly that's maybe that briefcase had cash in it. But that briefcase had a lot of things in it. It was a really sizable briefcase handed by the American who landed in North Korea in the airport and gave it to that military man. Now in North Korea, military is also probably the security service agents always sometimes wear military uniforms. So that's your Obama. So Americans, a nuclear option is probably North Korea, and somebody is gonna kick it off from there. I don't know. Maybe Putin will. Maybe that's what he's counting on. That is too far away from him, right? Folks, those psychotic bunch, lizard eye cabal of Moscow, are willing to do anything. Now, am I saying this is highly likely? No, it's highly unlikely. But if there's a place that this thing may come out from, it is in fact North Korea. Have a nice day, my friends. And today's rant was a little bit lengthy. In the core, factual facts are here, folks. Politically correct is not here. You won't find me to be politically correct. Like me or not, I really hope you understand what I'm saying and what I'm driving towards. But the state of the world now and civilization, believe me, you may say this is like a big statement. Oh no, it's it's on a ledge, folks, and the precipice is deep. The fall is precipitous. That's all I can say. Have a nice day, my friends, and talk to you later.